Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 14th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday in the Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 29 in the house. And listen, we were promised talks with Quinn. We had some talks and maybe a flip. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. We're going to talk about it all today. And with me to talk about it is Cory. How you doing, Cory?
I'm doing well. I just want to get out in front of this for everybody watching. If you're here to hear about the new twist that's going to impact the game, you're at the wrong place. We're just updating on the live feeds.
No, well, we are going to tell you all about it at the end of this podcast. So stay tuned, stay watching until the end, and then
Mhm.
we're going to tell you all about the new twist.
We'll tell you even more on Thursday.
No, we don't say that until the end, Cory.
Shit, sorry.
Yeah. All right. Well, of course, this is what we have going on. Angela is the HOH, but Quinn is the real HOH, or the deepfake real HOH. Cedric, MJ, and Rubina are on the block after Tucker won the veto and saved himself. Now, how this is working so far, coming into today, is that Cedric should be safe, and that MJ should leave over Rubina, MJ should leave over Cedric, but Rubina would leave over Cedric. So if MJ wins the AI Arena competition, Rubina goes home. If anybody else wins the AI Arena competition, MJ goes home. There was brief talk about potentially flipping the vote on Rubina from Chelsea, but it was very quickly shut down by Quinn. And that's basically where we head into today. Of course, we talked yesterday about how T-Core and Kimo had discussed maybe ratting Leah out finally, and how they were really going to talk to Quinn in the morning today. There was a lot to talk to him about like, should we talk about the Pentagon and the collective and rat out Leah and really like get to the bottom of things? They were like, we're definitely going to do it. And then they talked to him the night before and they didn't. And then after the conversation the night before, they were like, okay, but now definitely in the morning, we're going to have that conversation. So here we are in the morning of day 29. And no, they didn't do it. Of course, they didn't do it.
The best time to rat out Leah to Quinn is before the veto meeting. The second best time is now. The third best time is tomorrow, and I'm hoping that happens.
We'll see. We'll see. So that does not happen. But what does happen is some other stuff. Tucker's going to talk with Joseph. Of course, we know that Joseph is secretly working with Tucker. And Tucker lets Joseph know about what had happened the night before with Angela,
I can feel on the bottom.
where she really, really wanted to join the alliance. They're like very pleased with themselves because look at them. Tucker in charge of one alliance on one side of the house, and Joseph in charge of another alliance on the other side of the house. They're really secretly running things, Cory.
Yeah, secretly to us as well. There's really a lot of behind the scenes work being done by Joseph. I mean, Joseph keeps talking about like he's the one who kind of created the collective, and he didn't, but he did kind of bring it back. So I'll give him some credit. Like the collective doesn't exist to the capacity it is without Joseph putting in the work he has. But no.
Well, Tucker, of course, continues to talk about wanting Quinn out. In case this has escaped your notice, Tucker has gone from wanting Quinn out to wanting Cedric out to back to wanting Quinn out. It's basically been that way ever since he called him a McDorkatron. And so Joseph is like, oh yeah, totally. You know what? I'm gonna get Quinn no matter what I do. We're gonna get him back, Tucker. Don't you worry. Quinn, mortal enemy. He later says to the cameras, this is a lie, of course, to placate Tucker. Not that he trusts Quinn, but he does not have a desire to take revenge upon Quinn like Tucker does.
It reminds me a lot of like Kenny's plans if he won HOH. He had like 18 different people he wanted to nominate. Right now, like Cedric and Quinn feel like people he might nominate, but he also wants to nominate Quinn and Leah because he wants Quinn next to the love of his life. And then Joseph pitches this idea, we should keep Leah off the block because Cam and Leah will become a big threat down the line as a duo.
Yeah.
And it just kind of feels like they're both living in this like alternate dimension that doesn't exist yet. But I think they landed, and correct me if I'm wrong, was it Quinn, Cedric, and like Chelsea? Was that their
Chelsea, yes. So this is the next part of the conversation, which is that Joseph is so I think it's worth setting this up a little bit that we've talked about Chelsea and Brooklyn, two best positioned people in the house for a bit over close to 2 weeks now. But we've talked a lot about they're not super active about this. They're not like actively maintaining this position or solidifying anything or anything like that. They've just kind of been in this position. And they recently even more solidified their final two. They're now sharing secrets with each other. And quite frankly, it's getting obvious. Lots of people are talking about it, but particularly Joseph is going to mention, hey, I think we need to be concerned about Chelsea and Brooklyn. And they talk about like, well, they probably have a final two. And Joseph, of course, knows about the Pentagon. And so he even throws in like, hey, I think they're really tight with Cedric too. And I bet Cam is in there. And these are people that we should be concerned about. And so Joseph, I think, would love to just like if Tucker is a loose cannon, Joseph is trying to aim him in the direction of the Pentagon and hope that his looseness isn't enough to like as long as he hits one of those people, Joseph is fine.
Yeah, it's interesting though because I think there is a difference about who gets targets for Joseph. Because Joseph, I feel like had a pretty good relationship with Chelsea, but that's kind of like withered away since he found out about the Pentagon. Like he knows he's not in that core of the collective, so he's almost like decided out of spite to a certain extent to like turn on the collective. But I do agree where like if you're Joseph and you're trying to flip, you don't target Cam. You don't target Quinn. It has to be someone who's like integral to the alliance. And there's only Brooklyn and Chelsea are the people. Maybe you could add Cedric into that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Cam is the worst target for Joseph because he doesn't have a great relationship with Cam, and Cam is sort of like the muscle of the group, so to speak, or at least a muscle of the group. And so I do think that the Pentagon is still weakened by losing Cam, but with say Cam and Chelsea on the block together, or even just Chelsea on the block in general, there's a lot that you can do when you have like the person that's in the best position on the block. And so either way, like, I actually don't love this idea of like Cam and Leah in the game together because they'll be a target. I don't think that's even really true anymore. But either way, this is Tucker we're talking about in terms of where he's angling Tucker, and who knows if that's going to even really be that effective. So, but the point here is that they're still doing this. Joseph is basically the only person in the game that Tucker hasn't ratted out in some capacity. So, for what it's worth, that seems to be something.
But Taryn, I'm curious how you think about this because I feel like Joseph had Tucker, at least insofar as Tucker was not going to target Joseph. And he's giving him so much information, and it's Tucker, where I feel like he's actively playing the middle, where I feel like Joseph should kind of passively play the middle, at least when it comes to Tucker, because it feels like a lot of information to trust with that guy.
It's dangerous for sure. But also like Joseph doesn't actually have that much to lose also. Like so I don't mind it that much. If he can wield Tucker as a weapon, so be it. If he can't and he gets caught, whatever. It's not like he's actually in charge of the collective. So, yeah. I would say if he was actually in charge of the collective, then this is doing too much probably. But, what are you going to do?
One day.
Uh, Tucker, though, Tucker's not having a great day. Tucker, we've talked about this before, but like, I think part of Tucker's bold gameplay is that he doesn't actually want to be there. He doesn't actually enjoy his time in the house. He really wants to be evicted before jury, or win the game and break the first in curse. He really does not want to get to go to jury. He hates a lot of things about the house. And when he's similar to Kenny, when he's not competing, I think he gets very agitated, and so he's gonna be doing some like massaging of Rubina, starts doing some like chiropractory stuff with like snapping and stuff like that. And production's like, hey, stop that. That's you are not qualified to be. We do not want you to break somebody's neck in our house. And Tucker not fond of being told he can't do that. He's gonna go off on a rant to production about how he hates being there and he can't do anything and production sucks.
I'm with Tucker on this one. Like, as someone who's been in that house, when Mr. B is telling you to stop doing something that you know you can do, I was doing cartwheels in the backyard and I'm getting like scolded. It's at a certain point, I'm not going to be told what to do by someone who gets to go home after their shift. Like, we're in the house, we're the house guests. But yeah, like if Tucker ended up snapping Rabina's neck, the show is over. So, I think Tucker should be a little bit more understanding. Also, and I want to clarify, I think this is a great thing. I feel like they've been doing a pretty good job of trying to accommodate Tucker.
Oh
They've
yeah.
been, which I think a lot of people like criticize, like, oh my God, production's favorite, stop showing favoritism towards him. If someone can't sleep, give them earplugs, give them melatonin. That's the correct thing to do. But I don't know if he necessarily like can shout from the standpoint of production, let me live my life. You guys hate me.
That is always the funny thing is that I feel like the production favorites are always the people most mad at production all the time because like they get the most from production, but also they want more. Which again, like I agree is fair. Like, but at the same time, when it comes to stuff like this, he's like, oh man, I can't give piggybacks. Like, what the hell? It's like there was a bit of an incident with a piggyback not too long ago, so
What's most devastating about Tucker is, again, like you said, he wants to be out pre-jury or win. But it feels like the outer world, whatever God is controlling the BB game, is fighting for their life to make sure he's the first member of the jury.
yeah.
So maybe that's where the animosity comes from, where he's like, he knows where he wants to end, and it seems like production has a different path in mind.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I think that is very much the case. So there was another thing yesterday as well, and I thought that you might have particular expertise in this. That Quinn is gonna go with the mustache a little bit. You see this?
Like, I can only defend him so much, Taran. He's getting like, look, I think people blow the Quinn's trying to be Cory out of proportion. But at a certain, I got a text from Bowie Jane saying, Quinn's drinking a lot of Dr. Pepper. That's kind of weird, huh? So at a certain point, I think some of the comparisons people draw are ridiculous. Others are not. I remember this conversation with Quinn and Tikor. And Tikor was like, you want to know my honest opinion? Quinn's like, yes, please. Do whatever you want. Which is a no, Quinn. It's a no. It was a no for me. It's a no for you. Please.
That was such a perfect representation of T-Core as well, where she was like, can I be honest with you, Quinn? And he was like, yes, please, I want your honesty. And then she still couldn't be honest with him, which is exactly what's happening at the moment. But yeah, it was I mean, if you could call it a mustache, I would think you'd probably not call it a great one.
Are you looking at my face cam right now, Taran? Like, like this. Sometimes this is how it goes. We work with what we have.
I guess so. I guess so. Is this? Hold on. Let's see if I can. How's it coming right now?
I mean, mine is like Quinn's, except Quinn has like a big like blank space here.
Hmm.
But maybe that'll be what fills in eventually.
I mean, listen. I feel like Quinn's making your mustache look better. Just saying.
I'm trying to think of how funny the joke of leaving the studio versus the logistics of rejoining the studio would be. Okay. Anyways, we could just keep going.
All right. Well, Leah is involved in some of the stuff going on yesterday. She's going to talk to various people, but particularly with Kimo and Tikor. She lets them know that she Again, we've talked about this before. We're kind of being a little bit repetitive here, but she would love to, or not love necessarily, but she would like to evict MJ. MJ over Cedric, MJ over Rubina. Why? Because she's tall and she can win comps, but also we've talked about this. She copies Leah a lot. She steals her jokes. She's even started stealing her mannerisms.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Leah wants to get rid of MJ, and she has a great strategy of doing so. She had a talk later in the day with MJ, kind of coaching her how to play the game. And playing by the Leah playbook is a surefire way to get yourself evicted. So I feel like
That's
she's
mm,
perfectly on track to getting what she wants. The stealing jokes thing is what I take the most offense to, because I promise all of Leah's material is not original. She's taken it from somewhere. And like I found in the house, everyone takes each other's jokes and
mhm.
mannerisms. And that's how you get like people saying ahoy on day 87 of Big Brother 25. Like it just happens sometimes. But Leah takes it personally, and I think she's able to do that with a lot of house guests. Like her and Joseph have almost like become this like ball of fire in the house that she just directs towards anyone whenever she feels like it. And I think it's sometimes fun feeds.
Yeah. Well, she also does talk about Rubina. She says that she doesn't think Rubina is a threat, but she does think she is unpredictable. And she talks about Rubina and Tucker and how, just in general talks about that relationship and how, it's like, hey, like she shouldn't really be with Tucker. Like that's not good for her. And, like all this, like, and is pretty, interesting that she talked about having a crush on Tucker before. The whole crush stuff continues to be a thread with Tucker and the strategy revolving around Tucker, but the point here is that she's not the biggest fan of Rubina still, and is willing to be like, oh, but she's not a threat, but like I do still kind of want her out at some point.
She almost painted it though, kind of as you said, like, oh, Rabina shouldn't. It's not good for Rabina to be with Tucker,
Yeah.
right? Which I don't think that's her real perspective. But I think like, say Rabina gets voted out this week, and then Leah ends up flirting more with Tucker. I think people are going to be like, clipping that conversation, being like, really?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, listen, she thinks she's slick. It's like, I know, it's for Rabina's sake that I really feel like they shouldn't be together. It's just not good for, we don't want to see like Tucker is just gonna like beat her in the end, and she's gonna be seen as like Tucker's person. But then what happens if Tucker bats his eyelashes, eyelashes, bats his eyelashes at Leah? Who knows?
We'll see.
Um, so Tikor and Kimo, they talk about Leah some more. They have now learned that they have confirmed that Brooklyn did tell Chelsea about 5 points. And they're like, damn it, why didn't we do that? Like now we're in trouble about this. This is frustrating, and it reminds them of, hey, the Pentagon exists. Maybe we should be concerned about it. And hey, we've never been told about the Pentagon by anybody other than Quinn. That's weird, right? It's only like 3 weeks too late to be thinking about this, but, like, that's fine, that's fine. Um, Tikor feels left out that she was never included in it. Like, I was right there. Like, I was in the room with them early on, and they did not bring me in. They've never told me about it. It's kinda lame that that happened. And Kimo's like, "Well, what if we just, like, blew it up?" She was like, not yet. I mean, come on."
Well, I will say I think there's a lot more incentive for Chemo to blow up the Pentagon than T-Core. Like T-Core has connections within there. Like T-Core is pretty good with Cedric, pretty good with Chelsea. They're both good with Quinn, but Quinn's not even good with the Pentagon. So like I do think that's going to become a bit of like an internal battle between T-Core and Chemo, where ultimately both of them will probably end up doing nothing. But I think Chemo does not have an end game path, just whittling down to the collective and then to the Pentagon. Whereas T Core, if she just continues playing passively, plays well socially, I do think she could just kind of like fall into a pretty good position.
Yeah, I mean, despite the fact that she wasn't brought in, she does have good relationships there. Um, and it would likely be Chemo that gets picked off first between the two of them, if they were to go down. So I do agree, and I do think it. I mean, I think it definitely benefits Chemo more than her to break out of this current structure because she does not have the best relationship with Tucker. And if Tucker becomes the centerpiece of a new counter alliance that is going to run the house, that puts T-Core at the bottom. And she's close to the bottom on the other side, but she's not quite as far down on the bottom because she has Quinn and Kimo and Joseph and a good relationship with Chelsea and Brooklyn. Like, there's a lot more she has to work with on that side. Now, that does not mean that she should let go of Rubina or the other side, but I agree. I think that she has less incentive to do something dramatic here. But it does that also means, like, again, and she says this too. Ultimately, MJ is just the best person for her to leave. If it's between Cedric and Rubina, that's tougher. And I do think she should take out Cedric. But it's I think it's hard, especially when you're already a more passive player, to commit to a vote flip on a person that might not even be there at the end of the week.
Exactly. And you kind of get in the situation in Big Brother sometimes where like the move is in front of you that you need to make. You have to kind of flip the house a little bit, vote out Cedric. But you really wish someone other than Cedric was there. Like I'm
Yeah,
sure T Core would be a lot happier if Cam was sitting on the block. But ultimately, like you don't know when the next chance you're going to have is. The votes might be there. I obviously, like you, I bet don't think it'll actualize. But I think this is like a rare chance where they can take out Cedric. The problem is, at that point, your cards are fully revealed. You talked earlier about how Cam would be a good target. I think the assumption there is Chelsea and Cedric would be like okay with getting rid of Cam. They would
exactly.
not be okay with getting rid of Cedric at this point. So it would really cause a divide in the house.
Yeah, it's almost like, man, it would be great if Rubino wasn't on the block, and maybe somebody like Leah was because somebody had told Quinn about things he was saying about it. I don't. It's just a thought, just like a
It's time to
passing
move on, Taran.
thought
This
that
isn't good
could
for
have
you.
something could have been that way.
Mhm.
All right. Um, so Quinn talks to Kimo, and interestingly, he asks Kimo like, "Hey, is Tucker trying to like revitalize the Underdogs Alliance, just without me in it?" And Kimo's like, "No." Quinn's like, "Really? Because that'd be pretty weird if he wasn't." It's like, I mean, no, I don't think so. Um,
It almost strikes me as like Quinn was in the DR and they're like, "What do you think would happen if the underdogs were revitalized without you?" Like it's very specific. It was very odd.
I mean, it's good instincts from Quinn. If this is just like out of the blue, because of course that's it. It's obvious. They also have been, for what it's worth, hanging out the four of them, the 4 points I call them, constantly. So wouldn't be hard to spot either. And the fact that Chemo is denying it, not the greatest sign, but I say that, but Quinn is just completely blinded to Chemo and Secor, I think, at this point. Um, so uh Chemo says, listen, Quinn, we're not in an alliance, no. But don't you want to like rekindle things with Tucker? Don't you want to get back together? Wouldn't that be great if we could do that? And Quinn's like, I mean, I don't know if that's gonna work. I mean, maybe if Rubina helped facilitate this, like she was like really getting in there with Tucker and convinced Tucker to like be chill with me, maybe. But man, I don't know. That sounds kind of risky.
It's a little gaslighty too. It's like Quinn, Tucker, can you guys reconcile your differences? Quinn's like, we had no differences until Tucker drew the
Right?
most defiant line in the sand to ever be drawn. But I truly do think Quinn, as like a gamer, he lets a lot of this stuff roll off his back. Like I think he'd be willing to do it. I think he just has no faith that Tucker ever will. And I think that instinct is 100% correct because what Tucker's been saying about Quinn, like Quinn's heard some of like the he's a dork, he's a nerd kind of lines, and he takes it very well. But if it was somebody else, what Tucker's saying is certainly crossing some lines. Like it's crazy.
I mean, I think the main thing for Quinn, and he talks about this a little bit later, is that like even if he like, because I agree, I think that like personally, like relationship wise, emotionally, he'd be perfectly willing to work with whoever he needs to advance himself in the game. But the issue is that like it just doesn't benefit him to work with Tucker. beyond just Tucker not coming after him, because he was working with Tucker, and Tucker just randomly started targeting him. He can't trust Tucker to not do that again. But beyond that, Tucker very clearly is very good at competitions and has like a circle of people who all have crushes on him that surround him that are a lot of the people that Quinn wants to work with. So the longer Tucker is in the game, the worse Quinn's position is, just no matter what happens. So it only, and he says this to the cameras, like it just benefits other people for Tucker and me to be chill and me to not be going after Tucker. It doesn't benefit me.
But there's no reason for Tucker to not feel like him and Quinn are chill. Just because someone's like, you got to have the compies thinking you're on their side at least.
Yeah, exactly. And it does behoove Tucker to get Quinn off his back if he can. We know he can't. But we know that Tucker has bigger fish to fry in the Pentagon. And Quinn could have been, should have been a number to strike against them if Tucker had waited and just used Quinn to strike at the Pentagon, which I think he would have been down for, then struck at Quinn. I mean, that like Tucker actually could have been in a really, really good spot.
Well, okay, Taran, I'm curious. This is a little bit off topic, but just on Tucker's game as a whole, has he entered? I should just target the next strongest competitor mode, or is it still let me tactfully play the game to try to build my numbers?
I mean, I think he's been in I'm gonna just target. It's a combination of who's the strongest and who do I hate the most right now.
Yeah,
And so I think that that is just his overall strategy.
I don't think it's a terrible strategy either. Like winning out from the final 14, 13 feels impossible, but it becomes less impossible when you get rid of Cedric and then Quinn and then Cam, and all of a sudden he's at the final, whatever.
And when there's an AI comp. So
Or when he's the instigator. You know.
right. Um, Worth noting as well, though, Quinn does warn Kimo that Chelsea suggested they evict Rubina over MJ the day before. Now, this really was just like I criticized Chelsea for being so passive about this. She just brought it up as an option, immediately was shot down. But even that was enough for Quinn to now say, hey, Chelsea kind of maybe wanted Rubina out over MJ. And that is, of course, concerning for Kimo.
It's concerning for Kimo. I know Quinn was very concerned about this too, which the way I view it for Kimo and Quinn is like Kimo obviously needs to keep Rubina. For Quinn, they're both targeting him. MJ's more likely to win a competition. Like I know Quinn was saying like that's the red flag. I don't think it's that big of a red flag. Obviously, it makes sense for Chelsea, which maybe he's saying, oh, she's playing self-interestedly. That's dangerous. But I didn't quite get Quinn's energy. Kimo, I totally get.
I agree. I think that Quinn is just off. He is playing for the Visionaries, but the Visionaries are not playing for him. And so because of that, he's trying to keep Rubina actively, and I really don't think he should be. I think he should want Rubina out, like very actively. He should be taking what Chelsea like. That's why I was like, of all people, it's Quinn that shot this down. Quinn should have been like, absolutely, we're taking Rubina out over MJ. But that is not how he sees the game right now. He does not recognize that Leah is against him, but he also doesn't recognize that Kimo and Tikor are not really for him either. At this point, in the same way that Kimo at least is very much more so for Tucker. And so because of that, like he does need to cut down on their numbers, and he does need to lean more into the Pentagon collective side of things. He just is, I think, set in his original thought process of this is my end game group, and the Pentagon is not. But he needed to shift last week, basically this week. So
Here's the thing. I agree, but I kind of disagree in certain situations. If Tucker wins HOH and nominates Quinn, Cedric, Cam, for example, and he ends up on the block against Cedric and Cam, it's going to be the Visionaries bailing him out in that case and flipping
if
on the Pentagon.
certainly, I mean, I don't think he should ditch them by any means.
Yeah.
But like, will they even bail him out? It's a question, right?
This
Like,
is
I don't know that they would at this point. But even so like, I think that like actively, if the House voted out Rubina over MJ, I don't think Quinn takes the heat for that. I think that the Pentagon takes the heat for that, and if anything, it makes it more likely that the visionaries bail him out because they need him more. So I don't know. That's I think how I see it. But um, Leah talks to Tucker. Tucker, by the way, we've talked about this, but he still feels like he has the votes to take out Cedric. And so he's still campaigning to take out Cedric. And to make sure that Rubina has the votes to stay. And so he's going to talk to Leah about this. And Leah talks more about Quinn and how annoying he is, and how she would like to take Quinn out. Like it's to the point now where like she can't she's like, I can't even stand being in the same room as him. Anytime Quinn walks into a room, she leaves the room. And he still doesn't seem to notice. I mean, he definitely notices something is wrong in this because this is not even just Leah. There are a decent amount of people, especially the day before, where like Quinn's in a room, he's trying to be like it's wild how quickly Quinn went from, like, the best social game in the house by far, everybody wanted to work with him, to near a house pariah now. And he definitely is noticing, but I think he's in a little bit of denial at this point.
Yeah, in this conversation with Leah and Tucker, Tucker says, "Do you want me to say something to Quinn?" And I'm like, "Please." Like, I'll take it from
Right?
Tucker at this point. Like, if it's not gonna be to Kimo, if it's not gonna be Leah, for like Tucker, just at least get this idea across because I do think Quinn is in denial, and I think it shows this like cool intersection of the strategic and social game because Quinn did not become a different person overnight. Quinn is Quinn. He's acted very consistently in this like goofy, I think they called it like try hard kind of like manner all
Well, I
season.
think he has gotten much more that, if that makes sense.
Okay.
From my perspective at least, I
Mhm.
feel like I do see what you're saying, and I do agree to an extent. I think that, like, it's like, I think that he was in a very good spot. Everybody really liked him. They liked his personality. After he was called out by Angela, you could tell that he was a little less comfortable, and those smaller shifts already, I think, started wheels turning, and people started looking at him a little bit differently, and so he started acting a little bit different, and then after the Tucker call out, I felt like he got much worse, and now because I think it spirals. It's like this feedback loop where, he's feeling like, I need to make people like me more, 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 more." And so, like, every time he's interacting with somebody now, it's a bit. Like, it's like, "Hey, we're joking around. You like me, right?" And the more he does that, the more people are turned off by him. And it just cycles, and now it's reached this pinnacle.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it feels like a lot of the difference is the reaction. He does his
Yeah.
same bits, and then people don't react in the same. 'Cause if people are laughing along, it's not awkward. It's funny. It's whatever. And then when he gets that like negative feedback, he keeps going. It's almost like telling
Yes.
a joke, no one laughs, and then you're like, "Get it?" Right?
Yeah.
And like they never laugh then. So I do think like it's probably column A and column B,
Mhm.
but his social game with Leah, like I think he wants to get back to where they were, but at a certain point, he has to realize, like, he can't understand the extent to which she despises him, but he can definitely get the sense of, like, maybe I should just chill out a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've talked about this a ton. I know we've mentioned it before, but like uh sort of corresponding with right around the time Angela and him got into the fight, and then certainly once Tucker called him out, his sleepwalking started and has gotten worse. He has been sleeping up in the have not room because he doesn't want to like he's like interacted with people. He doesn't want to wake anybody up. He's just like can't stop himself from sleepwalking and talking. And it's a very clear sign of like pretty severe anxiety that I think is getting worse and worse in the house. And so I think it's like it's pretty clear that there's a spiral happening, and that I think it feels to me like he's trying to avoid thinking about like, he's trying to, like, be like, "No, no, if everything is still fine, people still like me, look at my jokes." But, like, people are leaving, and he's like, no, it's everything's fine." It's the meme with the fire, like, that's Quinn right now.
Yeah, and I do feel for Quinn in that aspect. Like, Big Brother is really hard for every house guest who walks into the house, but it affects people differently. I think Tucker and Quinn are probably the two key examples of they're not dealing with the pressure and the stress of the house well. Obviously, Kenny wasn't either. Angela wasn't. Like, it's not a coincidence that we have 4 or 5 people spiraling by week 4. Like, the house is really, really difficult. And some of the worst nights I had in there were late night, everyone else is asleep, and you just can't get there because there's so much going on in your brain. And knowing Quinn, I'm sure he feels the exact same way. But I do think like moving up to the have not room is the right call. And he's kind of like chancing into a lot of these good decisions because he obviously doesn't have the information. But like, remember all the trash talking of Quinn? He's moving into the girls' room and he wants to spy on us and whatnot. He's kind of solved that problem by accident. So like, it's a good call by him. I just hope he's able to figure this out. I hope, however they accommodate Tucker, they're able to figure out a way to accommodate Quinn.
Mhm. Now, so Leah is talking about Quinn and how annoying he is to her and how she wants to target him. But what's funny is that after she leaves, Tucker's like, "Man, she doesn't even realize that she's Quinning me. Like she's the Quinn to me. She's got a crush on me and she's annoying to me and I want her to leave every time in the room essentially." Um, so Kimo talks to Tucker. And he is also going to pitch to Tucker, "Hey, what if the two of us, or sorry, what if you and Quinn bury the hatchet, start working together?" And Tucker's kind of like, ah. And Kimo says, because remember, Kimo wants to out the Pentagon, and he comes real close. He's like, I think we need to be worried about Chelsea, Brooklyn, Cam, and Cedric. And so it would be great if you and Quinn could stop going after each other, because maybe that's a group that's really close that we should be more concerned about. Um, and Tucker is Tucker. Who really knows how he's actually taking this in? But this is the second time today he's been warned about this particular group of people. Would he actually bury the hatchet with Quinn? I don't think so. It'll be interesting to see like if any of this starts to sink in a little bit with Tucker.
Let me know what you think, Taran. I think Tucker, unimpeded by other people's words and opinions, if he could just have his way, might target Brooklyn. 'Cause he
I
voices his skepticism every conversation.
Yes. I think that I think he wants Quinn gone first, but I do think he would target Brooklyn. I think he would target um he keeps going like the thing about him wanting to target Cam and Cedric is that he doesn't actually want to target Cam or Cedric. He wants to work with them. He made an alliance with them for a reason. He just got pissed that they turned him down and then started talking about targeting them. But like the reality is that he really wants to work with them. And so I think he will consistently back away from targeting them because they're the bros, and he has always wanted to work with the bros. They just keep like Cam is so obvious that he doesn't want to work with them. Cedric actively turned him down. And so he's like, no, then I have to target you. But wait, what if we didn't? Like those are the people he could bury the hatchet with. Quinn, not a bro. Not gonna
No,
happen.
not quite.
Quinn is a
Despite
McDormand.
how much Quinn talks about his athletic ability, and I feel like he's had more sports conversations in the past 2 days than I've had my entire duration in the house. But I don't think it's fooling Tucker.
Yeah. Tikor and Quinn talk, and they do agree. Like Quinn still agrees. Like I want to flip on the collective. I want to make this move, and we should do it soon, but just not quite yet. They're both on the same page that it's not quite yet. And so um, so they're still kind of there. And when Tikor talks to Kimo again, they discuss the possibility of flipping on Cedric to keep Rubina, but Tikor does kind of push back. Like, I don't know if this is the right move at this time. We should probably talk to Quinn more about it. And then Chemo's like, well, Chelsea did suggest, according to Quinn, voting out Rubina over MJ. And Tikor's like, whoa, if that's true, maybe we do need to flip on Cedric. But we definitely need to talk to Quinn more about it. So
It's just tough though because it really doesn't benefit Quinn to vote out Cedric. It really doesn't benefit T-Core even. Like it could certainly. There's a path, but
over Rubina, I think for
sure.
T-Core, it makes sense, but certainly not over MJ.
Yeah, it's just like a really challenging spot because you can gather these votes, but the votes you're going to gather are not going to form into a cohesive group, and you're going to alienate so many people. And Chelsea is not going to flip from her a lot. Like I don't see the numbers actualizing, especially if like again like Quinn's kind of the poisoned apple here. Like you can't have these conversations with Quinn and expect to reach your destination. If it's just T-Core and Kimo meeting of the minds, we're going to flip this vote and get the numbers. Sure, Quinn's going to go in and push back, and they're too passive players to say, "Screw you, Quinn. We're doing it anyways."
Yeah, I mean, I think especially if you're able to somehow, if you're able to get Quinn on board, the play is you gather the numbers, you vote out Cedric, and then when Chelsea and Brooklyn and Cam were the only people left outside of that vote, come to you like, "What the hell, T-Core?" He goes, "Well, sorry. First, the numbers weren't there. Second, Quinn told me you guys had an alliance without me." And
Yeah.
what can they do at that point? There are 3 people. They are in the defensive position now. They need any number they can get, and now you are their connection to the power structure, and you hold them, in a spot where it's like, "Okay, well, maybe we can still work together. I don't really love Tucker. I don't love Angela. Like, I still wanna work with you guys. It was just that I felt betrayed." And, I think they just have to get over the Cedric thing. I think that you just force them into that position.
In this week's episode of Takimo fan fictions,
I know. Yeah.
yeah, it's like
Very much not how T-Core plays the game.
it would be good though.
So that's basically it. There's obviously again a lot of conversation about this. Somehow T-Core and Kimo, I think, did manage to get people excited about a potential flip before they eventually realized it's probably not going to happen. But I will definitely keep you updated if it actually goes anywhere. But as of right now, the possible flip has not gone anywhere. Like, just to be clear, there was talk of it, but the talk was only between T-Core and Kimo, and that's like a fantasy land. It doesn't actually exist until it goes beyond the 2 of them, and it hasn't yet. So, don't get your hopes up if you're hoping for a flip, is what I would say.
No, the flip meter is not on. It's not turning, but they did like find it in the attic and are considering dusting it off. But that's about as far as we've gotten.
Yeah, they were like, "Man, this was used a lot last season, but nobody's nobody's touched it since."
Mm-mm. Out of commission.
Um, Corey, anything else you wanted to bring up from yesterday?
Do you have any theories about the instigator?
Not. I just like. Here's my thing. I don't like when they announce twists without telling us what they are, and I don't like speculating about it either because it's like it could be anything. Like, who knows? Like, we can. Like, all we will do by speculating is either catastrophize by thinking about what's the worst possible thing, or disappoint ourselves by thinking about the cool things they could be doing that they definitely won't.
It is kind of genius just in the sense of like we have to keep watching episodes to find out what the twist is, and then we need to keep watching episodes to figure out who's gonna get the twist via the episode's edit. So like in a weird way, this whole like kind of like jerking us around has made us watch the episodes. I'm sure you watch all of them, but like I feel like I need to watch to figure out what's going to happen this season. So they got me.
Yeah, we are very much Angela approaching production with taking whatever scraps they give
I
us.
can get on the bottom.
It's we'll
Literally.
take whatever we can get. It's fine. All right. That's what we've got then. That is yesterday on the feeds. I will of course be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds, including if a flip actually happens. Um, and then tomorrow night, eviction. But first, tonight, I'll be on Twitch watching the episode live with all of you, and then live after the episode with Corey. We've got Jag on tonight.
Wait. So you're telling me you had Bowie last episode,
Mhm.
Jag this episode, Are we doing the mafia trifecta? Oh my god.
Ooh, I don't know. I think 2 out
Stay
of
tuned.
3 is good enough for the mafia.
I would agree with you.
Um, listen, somebody listen, like, I think the quote, joining the mafia, Matt does get erased from that quote when Bowie does cameos. It's,
Mm.
how has your game changed for the better once you joined the mafia with Cory and I, right? So, I think, it's just a new mafia.
Oh my god, Taran, what a
Mafias have a high
dream.
turnover rate.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Makes sense.
So, we'll hear what Jag has to say when he's not, reading from the script given to him by CBS.
It was so funny. I was watching the episode and I really wanted to criticize Jag because it's fun to criticize Jag. And he had this like quote where he's like, some players are playing really poorly, but others are doing pretty well. And I'm like, this is exactly how it was strategizing with Jag in the Big Brother house, like to a T. I'm not even sure it was scripted. I'm sure it was, but
Well, we'll chat with Jag tonight. It'll be a fun time. So tune in for the recap, and then of course again tomorrow night eviction. And I'll be live on Twitch for that as well, and then recapping it afterward. So check all of that out. Cory, what do you got going on?
Twitch.tv/Cory Wurtenberger. I stream every other day basically about Big Brother. Patreon.com/AmeriCory. We're about to start our Big Brother 7 rewatch, Me in America. And then, kind of excitingly, today in a couple hours, we will be interviewing Felicia, talking about the new season and our season and all those things. So if that interests you, check it out.
Has she turned around on Angela yet? I heard
We'll
she was an
see.
Angela hater.
All I saw was her tweeting about how the BB25 edit did her wrong, and I immediately sent a text. I'm like, we got to talk about this. This sounds like a good conversation.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today, and I will see all of you